Welcome everyone to our project Data Limited Learning of Complex Dynamical Systems, DLL. So my name is David Broman and I'm the main PI of this project. And together with me here, I got my co-PI. So it's like got Chatelier, Véronique Choteau, Håkan Hjalmarsson, and Alexandre Protier. Machine learning has been very successful in today's society, and especially in areas such as visual object recognition or speech recognition. These are forms of supervised learning, and another area is what's called reinforcement learning, where you have an environment and an agent, and then the agent is performing different actions on the environment. In this way, you can observe and sample from the environment and get rewards so that you can actually improve the agent's performance and to perform a certain task. It has been successful in more kind of toy examples where you play board games or video games. But the problem is that you really need to have a really large amount of data and that you can simulate the environment and that you have a known environment that you can collect this data from. So what is the research objective of this project? It is to develop new techniques, methods, and tools to learn to control complex dynamical systems using a limited number of data samples and structural information in a reliable manner. And this work is really a interdisciplinary work. We are also interdisciplinary when it comes to application areas. We're working on robotics and also on biotechnology and bioprocessing. To be able to be more concrete, we are focusing on two application demonstrators. So the first one is about continuous bioprocessing, where you have a complex system, in this case, a biological system that you want to control, but you cannot sample it very often, but you want to control it so that you can harvest the system more continuously. This is very useful to get, more flexibility and efficiency in the production. The other application area is reinforcement learning of cyber physical systems. So what is a cyber physical system? Well, that is a system where you can combine physical part, mechanical part, for example, with computers typically embedded into networks. So what we're aiming for here is to be able to get a robot to learn how to first sit up and then stand up and then to walk by itself. So this is really a physical balancing problem. But the problem here is that you cannot try this robot many times. You cannot sample data and let it fall 100,000 times. So there's only a limited amount of data that you can probe and test on this system. What is then the approach that we take in this project? We have this complex system that we want to control using some sort of reinforcement learning technique. But we cannot probe the system. We can just probe it a limited amount of times. So the key idea is to create a model, a so-called gray box model, where we can learn from data, but we also encode a priori information into the model. And so this model can also be called a digital twin, so a replica of the real system, a model of the system. And if we have that model of the system and we are able to simulate the model, to study it as if it was working for real, the key idea is that we then can use this simulated information to be able to train the actual agent and the reinforcement learning problem. You can then use this trained model on the real system and test the real system. The thing is, of course, that the model is not reality, so it will not be exactly as the real system. But then we get data, and then we use this data to improve the model so that you get a better model that you then can train on the real system. So an important aspect of our project is really the team, where we have many key competences from different fields. So for example, we have Véronique and her team working on biotechnology. Håkan and his team work especially on system identification and control. We have Psychot working on deep learning. We have Alexander focusing on reinforcement learning, and myself focusing on modeling languages, and especially on simulation of equation-based systems. And to be able to do this, we divide our main projects into 3 sub-projects where different PIs collaborate. So the first sub-project is about continuous bioprocessing, where Veronique, Håkan, and Saikat are involved. And the second project is about reinforcement learning on cyber-physical systems, where Håkan, Saikat, Alexander, and myself are involved. So these two sub-projects, continuous bioprocessing and reinforcement learning of CPS, these are application domains, application areas. We have a third project here where we really develop the theory around this that are then put in practice in the two different application areas. And now my colleagues are going to present each of these sub-projects one by one.
And now about sub-project 1, which is about continuous bioprocessing and gathering 3 of the PIs. Continuous bioprocessing for the production of therapeutic antibodies. Antibodies are large molecules which are used for the treatment of cancer or diseases like rheumatism. These are produced in bioreactors by mammalian cells. We are working on continuous production of these type of molecules. This is supported by mathematical modeling. However, the modeling have some uncertainty.
In the continuous bioprocessing sub-project, we'd like to include information from gene expression. The overall system is highly nonlinear, and also we have very limited data availability. In this project, we'd like to use model-driven deep learning systems and system identification to capture the information from inputs and to get relevant outputs. 3 groups are working together. Veronique's group brings the expertise in bioprocessing. They provide the data and also the basic model. Our group develops model-based deep system for further improvement of the model. Håkan's group takes the output from us and develop system identification tools and model reduction.
Our second sub-project is reinforcement learning in cyber-physical systems. My name is Håkan Hjalmarsson. I'm one of the 4 co-PIs in this project. So in this project, we want to control real-world cyber-physical systems. And the challenges here are that these systems are often very complex, and the experimentation that we can do on them is very limited. Physics, well, it's actually quite simple. It's just a few equations and some constraints. We also have agile architectures today that we can use for control. Still, there are, of course, challenges. We have nonlinear dynamics. We need to have efficient computations, especially we need to combine CPUs and GPUs in an efficient way. We also need to have a system or a procedure that works for any system, basically. So we shouldn't have to redo the project for a new system. Also, the model estimation itself can be very challenging, especially when you have unmeasured disturbances. So the principle of the project is as follows. By using physical models, we can minimize the amount of experiments needed. On the other hand, this generates a lot of equations. So in order to do simulation, we need to do them efficiently. Also, these models contain unknown parameters, like the mass of a robot, that need to be determined from experimental data. So for that, we need parameter estimation. And here we can use system identification or machine learning technique. Another concept used in the project is that we use simulation also for the parameter estimation, extensive simulations. In the end, we get an updated model that we can use to do simulations on. And that brings us to the controller design. And here we will use reinforcement learning. Instead of doing that on a real system, which requires a lot of experiments, we will use our model as a substitute. So that means that we will do extensive simulations for designing the controller. And also for that reason, we need to do efficient physical simulations. So this is the overall picture of the project.
So the last sub-project of DLL involves most of the PI and aims at laying the foundation towards the development of reinforcement learning techniques with limited data. So the generic envision system consists of 3 components. The first component is the complex system we wish to control itself. The second component is a simulator of or a model of this complex system. And the third component is the controller or the learning agent. The first fundamental question we wish to answer within the theory project is to characterize the number of sample or observation from the complex system we need to calibrate the model or the simulator with a prescribed level of accuracy. And we managed to do that for linear system and other kinds of toy example. The second question is concerned with reinforcement learning per se. And here we try to understand how to devise, how to learn optimal control policy, assuming that our model or simulator is actually accurate. The third research theme within this project concerns the system globally and aims at identifying optimal control policy while minimizing the number of sample of observation taken from the complex system, so with data limited.
So in summary, the whole DLL project is really about machine learning, but where you only have limited amount of data, meaning that you can only probe and sample the system a limited amount of times. And this involves things like active learning, equation-based modeling and simulation, and reinforcement learning. We have divided this project into 3 sub-projects. So one is on continuous bioprocessing. The other one is on reinforcement learning of cyber-physical systems. And to bind it all together, we have the theory part. Thank you for listening.